Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. It is your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Please reach out to me directly. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com for pricing. Today, we're discussing a watch launched in 2012 that has become something of an icon. It's not for every Rolex buyer, every Daytona buyer, or even every white gold Daytona buyer, but if you want a handcrafted Rolex watch in the modern era, only the gem set models are that. And so what we have here is exquisitely handcrafted. This is the famed Rainbow Daytona, technically the Oyster Perpetual Cosmograph Daytona 116599RBOW. It is a spectacular timepiece, 40 millimeters in diameter, 12.2 millimeters thick from lug tip to lug tip, 47.7 millimeters, 51.8 millimeters from end link to end link, the total distance across the wrist. 20 millimeters is the spacing between the lugs. Pop open the bracelet, the clasp, throw it on the wrist, and it wears beautifully. It wears like any other white gold Daytona. Now, almost 52 millimeters end link to end link. It is a little bit broader than you might expect for a 40 millimeter watch. So I'm going to recommend this for a wrist no smaller than 15 centimeters circumference. 14 might get away with it if your wrist is more oval than round and flat across the top. I have a very flat oval shaped wrist at 16 centimeters circumference, and you can see it still fills up my wrist. So this wears like a big boy, even though at face value it's thin and the case diameter is not large. That said, it will easily fit underneath the cuff, and being all white gold with a massive bracelet clasp and solid case back, you really feel the heft of this watch on the wrist. Now, it's interesting to note that Rolex has its own foundry, it makes its own alloys, and it smelts its own gold. Rolex uses a white gold alloy known as gray gold, which means it never needs to be rhodium plated, and it's white all the way through, so if you get a scratch, it's the same color metal underneath. That's not the case with rhodium plated white gold. Rhodium plate is the cheaper kind. This is the good stuff. And of course, Rolex makes case, bracelet, and clasp. We've got an end link that helps mate the bracelet to the case without a gap. And then there's a little bit of a taper down to the clasp. You can see this is the 3-link oyster style bracelet. Polished centers, polished outer faces, satin shoulders. We're in the solid end link, solid center link era of Rolex bracelets here. Removable links, of which there are several, are fitted using screws. And then you can see that there is a 5 millimeter snap-in, snap-out, easy link, tool-free adjustment system. There's also 3 pairs of divots drilled inside the clasp. You can see them here. They have little tracks leading in to help guide the spring bar. But using your strap tool, you can re-anchor the bracelet in any of those 3 positions for additional fine-tuning of the fit. There's actually a spring-loaded lift lock system here. See what I'm talking about? That is the spring-loaded lever, a beak, and a hook. And so this is the first lock. You have that lift lock system that latches once, and then the clamshell. So there's actually 2 locks here. We've got satin and polish on the clasp. You open up the clamshell. There's a little kerf underneath the crown, so you can dig your nail in easily. You pop it open. Internally thick gauge, single fold deploying clasp, all nicely polished. And then we roll over the case, and the Daytona case is simple and graceful. It has a compound curved case, lovely tapered lugs. This is not a super case. Now, on the case itself, you can see we have diamond paved lugs as well as crown guards. And what you're looking at, 56 diamonds, and then we've got 36 shaded sapphires on the bezel, and of course we have additional diamonds on the dial. Now, gem setting at Rolex is done the way it would have been done in the 19th century, using hand tools, using flames, using loops, and the jeweler's eye-hand coordination combined with experience. And the atelier at Rolex where gem setting is done is entirely manual. The only automated part is that they use scanners that are able to match the carats' clarity and color of the gems. So the diamonds are all exactly the same clear white, and then the sapphires have a certain amount of gradient shift from piece to piece so that it's gradual and not abrupt. And production of these was constrained by 2 factors. 1, very expensive. 2, the challenge of finding sapphires that offered the perfect mathematical gradient shift from gem to gem in order to achieve the desired effect. So not only handcrafted, but limited production. Taking a quick look, we have a trip lock crown in gold. You know that because it has the big center dot and 3 dots overall. A screw down crown, screw down chronograph pushers, 100 meters water resistant. We have a dial that features red varnished sub-register hands as well as a red varnished chronograph seconds hand. White gold numerals at 3, 6, and 9. We got 15 minutes, 30 minutes, and 45 minutes. White gold bases below the gems. The gems are brilliant cut here. We have white gold hands, white gold crown, all this white gold inside the watch to resist tarnish, oxidation, or fading over time. And then we have sub-registers with lovely polished chapter rings and what I initially thought was meteorite when I first saw these models. In fact, depending on the model you buy, whether it's yellow, rose, or white gold, you have a sort of crystalline pattern that's been created using the case metal. So here we have a pattern that resembles natural crystal. It's actually a sort of acid etching of white gold that creates this pattern right here. So these are actually white gold flake patterns, and no two are exactly alike because the way the metal etches and stains will be different from example to example of this watch, so each one is effectively unique. Solid oyster case back, again, 100 meters water resistant. Inside, Rolex manufacturer caliber 4130, bidirectional automatic winder with a rotor bearing rather than the jeweled staff. It's a 3-day power reserve, a 4 hertz beat rate, 44 pivot jewels. It's got a column wheel for crisp feeling and sounding chronograph operation, and then a vertical clutch for smooth, seamless, jump-free engagement of the chronograph because there's no play in a vertical clutch. Another reason you want a vertical clutch, you can leave the chronograph running full-time with no additional wear and tear to the watch. That's not a problem with a vertical clutch. Now, there is a hacking or stop seconds function, an anti-magnetic niobium zirconium hairspring. That hairspring is an overcoil profile shaped by hand that allows the watch to keep excellent time in any physical position with respect to gravity, and also helps the watch to ace the multi-position, roughly 2-week test of the COSC chronometer certification, which this movement has received. It also features a full balance bridge with a free-sprung balance for precision of adjustment and greater shock tolerance. And although the indices themselves are not luminescent, you can see that the hands are. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.